So we're going to do a centering practice today that covers the crown chakra, or Sahasrara, if you pronounce it that right, which means thousand-fold petal. So it's like an opening, a blossoming of a thousand-fold petal is sometimes the imagery depicted with this chakra. It is said to be located towards the top of the head, but oftentimes not actually physically on the body, above a couple inches. So it really is about the idea it's part of the subtle body, not necessarily the physical body. It's re-emphasizing that fact that these chakras are not physical in and of themselves, even though they can affect our physical part of ourselves, expression of our soul. So Sahasrara, one of the main postures that helps to connect with it is Shavasana. So we're going to begin in our Shavasana, or constructive rest. So you're going to come down onto your backs. And we're going to do a little bit of movement just to kind of lubricate the joints and get any wiggles out that you have. And then we'll go through a guided meditation and then some more, tools and techniques, information, all related to our crown. So just take a few moments to get settled on your spine. And then from here, you might just gently roll your head right to left, massaging the back of the skull, moving slowly if you wish, or quickly, just noticing the sensations from that gentle movement. Letting natural breath move in and out. When you sense readiness, letting the head settle to neutral, nose to the sky. You might press the back of the skull into the earth, maybe tip the chin up just slightly as you push your skull down. So you're sensing the muscles in the neck start to activate, and then soften the neck, soften the skull. And you might for a moment think about the chin drawing down to the manubrium, which is that top notch of the sternum where the clavicles meet, and then lifting the head ever so slightly if you're okay to lift the head, and then letting the head settle back down, and maybe just nodding a gentle yes until you find that sweet spot for your head to just settle. Maybe imagining you're in warm sand, so you're creating an imprint that perfectly cradles your skull. And then from here, just drawing attention to the muscles of the face. You can begin to tighten all the muscles in of the face, scrunching them in, squeeze, 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 and then letting them soften. And then thinking about opening your eyes wide, opening your mouth wide, even sticking out your tongue. Open everything wide, hold, and then letting everything relax. Maybe just rolling your tongue for a moment in the mouth, clenching your teeth, and then letting the jaw soften. If there's any final movements for the face to support a sense of release, at any point allow. And then continuing to work down to the shoulders. So let's shrug the shoulders up toward the ears. Maybe make fists. And then let the shoulders soften, the fists open. And then think about the shoulders moving in toward the sternum, so the back body, the scapula widens. This front body caves in, it sinks in. And then let the shoulders relax down toward the earth. And then think about the arm bones and scapula moving in toward the spine. The chest might lift slightly as there's a gentle hug, a squeeze. And then letting the shoulders soften, the arms relax by your side. Maybe open your fingers wide, reach your fingers down toward your heels. Take a moment just to reach, extend, and then let the arms soften. You might bend at the elbows slightly, so your elbows are rooted, but the fingertips are toward the sky, and just roll out your wrists. Roll them out, shake them out, roll out the fingers, scrunch them in, open them wide. Just intuitively move the wrists, the fingers, the palms. Shake out the arms. Listen to how your body wants to move or release. When you're ready, let the arms just settle and soften by your side. Let the belly be soft so you're breathing deeply, naturally. You might bring attention to the sacrum, the back of the hips. You might just start to clench the buttocks around the hips, squeezing, and you might sense the lower abdominals hugging in as well, and then letting that soften and relax. And then you might just imagine kind of the placement of your sacrum in the backs of the shoulders, the scapula, and then the whole vertebrae. And imagine that you're kind of like a snake slithering. So you're letting the hips shift right to left, little shimmy shifts. And then also maybe the shoulders. The shoulders might kind of move to the opposite direction, that the hips are sliding. And you can take that slow or quick. It might support you with feet planted or legs extended, or you can try a little both. It can be a quick little shimmy slithering, like you just got disturbed sunbathing by a human walking by. And you're slithering back to safety, or it could be a slow sort of meander, just waking up from the winter. Letting it feel good. And then when you're ready, letting that movement subside and settle. And you might just bring attention all the way down to the legs, flexing the feet, or pointing the toes, squeezing the calves and thighs, letting the legs relax, and just rolling through your ankles or scrunching through your toes a few times. Maybe heels are on the ground if that supports you. And any leftover little shakes or shimmies to settle your body, again, imagining perhaps like the imprint of that sand. Your body's creating the imprint in the sand as you settle. And just allow yourself to be. Just be here in this moment. Affirm to the self that you are present, you are here. That life is your teacher, all of it. And as you continue to invite your body to relax, I'm just going to talk through a gentle sort of visualization. You might just think about this concept. You might visualize it in your mind's eye. You might sense it through just awareness of kinesthetic awareness or touch. However it moves into your mind, just let it, trust it. But as your body is continuing to relax into this space, begin to think about, imagine, or picture an endless web of individual threads. Threads throughout a vast universe of time and space, woven together. At every point of intersecting threads exists an individual soul. And for every individual soul, at every intersection and crossing, you can picture a crystal bead. Each crystal bead is unique in design and form. To help settle into this imagery, You might imagine how dewdrops form on a spider's web, that the sun illuminates each bead of water. Each bead of water reflects and sparkles different colors of the rainbow. And just as light illuminates every crystal bead within that vast web, every crystal reflects light from every other crystal. Ripples of light reflected in every reflection. Light reflected in every reflection throughout that vast web. Just allowing this imagery to take hold, sink in, as you sense that we are all part of the same source. Each crystal bead, each soul shines with that same light. All interconnected, all woven into the same cosmic fabric. All share equally in eternity, from atoms, microbes to mountains. Everything in essence is sacred and holy. The light within you is that same light within each other, within the universe, as everything is one. Take a moment here to consider a kind thought, a loving, kind thought into the self. State it to yourself. Letting that kind and loving thought wash over you. And as we extend love inwards, by doing so, we extend love outwards. As we are all interconnected, light reflected in light. Allowing yourself to be open, to being sincere, being honest on your own path to your truth and that inner freedom. Allowing yourself to love yourself enough to take responsibility for your own self-realization. Realizing that you are already whole. The light of the divine is already part of you. And acknowledging that this devotion to love ourselves is a devotion to love all. So take a few moments just to allow that image, those thoughts to permeate. Knowing that each time you shine your light, you help to shine all the cosmos. So keep connecting with that source within, letting it be nourished, be visited, letting it shine unreservedly. In your mind's eye, you might journey up your spine to the top of your head, a few inches above the head. You might just breathe into this space. Maybe your breath deepens to sense the breath filling from the roots of your feet, traveling up the body, all the way through the brain, top of the head, up into that spot a few inches above your crown. And as you breathe in and out naturally, you let air just fill the body, the whole body system, every cell, every piece is connected to the whole. Just sense that fullness and gratitude. Invite in a sense of serenity to both the light and darkness within, around. Allowing that dissolving of duality, letting go of opinions of how things ought to be. We're not seeing the beauty and nature of how things are. Noticing when our beliefs become rigid. Letting those go and letting that divine light that is part of each and every one of us, the beauty of it all, from the light and the dark, to illuminate, to shine, to remind us that we are one. Also notice this experience of both thought, knowingness, but also the sense of embodiment, the feelings that arise and fall away, the sensations of hunger, of pain, of joy. Letting yourself be connected to that divine nature, but also seeing the divine, the sacred and holiness of the physical embodiment that is a part of it all. So noticing if at times you disassociate from the body or you deny yourself of body pleasures, become too austere in your thinking, become too addicted to the spiritual. Knowing that us as humans and the human experience is not separate from the nature that is physical, spiritual, and divine. It is all part of one system. So just let this awareness breathe into your whole being both divine and physical. Being one with it all, the entire experience of the soul and every aspect of it. And when you sense readiness, you might start to Wiggle once more. Roll the ankles or wrists, the head, shake the limbs. Listen to the needs of your body, trusting it knows. Maybe you imagine yourself like a sleeping lotus, and the movement is the unfurlment of each petal blossoming open. Letting yourself continue to unfurl, to open, to move the body. And if you're in that lying down position still, just letting these movements gently take you to one side before bringing yourself to a tabletop position where your hands will be rooted on the mat underneath your shoulders. And your knees will be grounded underneath your hips. Tops of the feet can be connected or toes can be tucked, whichever supports you best. Palms can be spread wide, finger pads pressing down, elbows soft. And just listen once more from this initial framework in tabletop to what movements your body is asking of you. What is it you need? And just move. Trust. Breathe with it. If you're called for a little more stillness, like settling back in a child's pose or rocking into plank or downward dog, whatever you're called to do. If you want to do a burst of a sun salutation, there are no limits. So do not limit yourself. Let yourself move freely for this next minute. And as you move freely, I invite you to examine your thoughts to help develop that inner witness, that observer to our experience. And if you like, the vowel associated with the crown chakra is E, like me. So you can let out a E, like we were doing in our B breath. You can hum it to yourself or just let a E. Try to sense that high up in your crown, in your brain. You can Om. Om is another seed syllable, silently or internally, letting out some sounds, letting inspiration flow down from the crown to the body. And when you're ready, we can just move our way to a comfortable seat or a resting place where we can listen and digest some more information about our crown. So something about the crown is that idea of that integration of that knowledge that everything is truly interconnected, everything is one, that energy transmutes and transforms, but ultimately it's all from the same source, can't be created or destroyed, and that's something that we're all connected to. It also ties together the idea of inner and outer beauty, and just having that deep sense of serenity or acceptance to being here as well, and seeing that beauty in all of it. Sometimes we think the beauty is only in those moments of, pleasure or joy. But when we're really listening and looking from that wide lens, this chakra, when it's open and influencing our lives, we can see and accept the beauty in the parts of our life that are painful, that are uncomfortable, the dark moments, and realize that those moments are equally beautiful. And not just for our inner experiences, but looking out at the world. And maybe we don't understand the harm that we're causing each other, right? How can people be so rude? How can people be so unkind? It makes us step back and say it's not about us and them. It's about us and our relationship with our divine nature. And maybe the people that are most harmful are, this is just my own thoughts, chose to do that to play a role in our life so we could learn to be non-judgmental, that we can learn to be forgiving and open, or we can learn to set our boundaries and say no and advocate for ourselves. So every soul is brave in choosing life. So, it's about learning. Maybe, it's the elephant. It goes back to elephant and blind man. It's too big. We don't know. But what we know is our limited perspective. But the crown chakra, the wisdom that flows in, like the ideas of the Dhamma lessons that help us connect to the universality of it all. Those truths that connect us, that say we're not separate, you're not limited. So, and an emotional, spiritual, because all these chakras kind of move through all the levels, right? They have sort of on a mental level, and that's kind of what I was just talking about, that mental realm. An emotional, spiritual level, it's about the gratitude for it all. Just coming to that idea of being able to ground in, connect with what is the beauty in our life, what is it that we have that we can be grateful for. It also helps us become non-attached. So if we go back and remember the Raft Sutta, we form beliefs and we can get very rigid. That can be an aspect of an imbalance with the crown chakra, like attaching or thinking everything we have learned, it means we've really learned it, or like there's nothing more to learn, or it means that is absolute. So that can be a rigid form of belief that we hold on to because it has helped us in the past. It helped us grow and expand. But every time we have to be able to don't just get attached to it, learn that, yes, it's a stepping stone and it's going to get us to the next level of understanding. So it also helps us on a physical level. So physical level, there's still a lot of research being done about the chakras in the physical level. Like Tiffany's workshop, she brought up how they're seeing how, yes, we've known it's been connected, or people are starting to see it's connected to the central nervous system and our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system as well. That's part of the autonomic nervous system. We looked at all that branch shit the other day, but now people are seeing even more correlation to the vagus nerve, which is part of that, parasympathetic nervous system, and how it corresponds. But there's still so much to discover. This is like new terrain. Remember when we first started the chakras back in the ancient yogis, it wasn't really like we see them now. The first model of it was like sun and moon. So that was kind of how we started. And over the years, as like there's this integration of spirituality and like science, the models keep expanding. So that's another example of like letting go of the past, keep letting it grow. And what was before isn't necessarily wrong. It's just part of a stepping stone to get you to that bigger lens. So some say that it's connected to the pituitary which is like kind of, if some, those would say like, okay, the pineal gland is like your natural sleep rhythms. It's sort of like the off switch of the brain, where it shuts off the receptors of receiving like serotonin and things like that, where the pituitary is part of your on switch. It like gives your body what it needs to get through the day and like to respond to situations. So it's a good thing to have an on and off switch. So some will say that it's connected to that, connected to the central nervous system, which is all linked into that. And then also others just say it's just the idea, it's not necessarily connected to one of the endocrine systems. It's just about the culmination of all. So there's still a lot, again, to be done. And is it perfect? No. But it's just to get us to think. So you might, as you study these chakras, which are just another tool, just like the Ayurvedic system, the doshas, or the idea of koshas, the sheaths, or the idea of centers within, they're just labels to get you to look within, to use them to see, how do we apply insight? How do we get to see ourselves more clearly? And that's an aspect of the crown chakra, is developing that inner witness, the observer to the self. So these are, some people do it through the chakras. Some people don't really deal with chakras, but they talk about their centers within, or just like their inner personalities, or that dialogue. Some people are going to be talking more about the koshas, if that's what they've studied. So everyone's going to use different labels, but really, if we get past the labels, we're all talking about the same thing. It's just ways that we connect. What language can we use so we can become that observer to what our experiences are? So some imbalances that can come up, I kind of talked about them a little bit in that meditative experience, but if you're finding it hard to heal, like wanting to force healing, or just not looking at things, kind of just denial, is that like a heavily dualistic, like all or nothing kind of attitude that can be an imbalance? Disassociating from the body, or denying yourself that you're in a body. I've gone through periods of that when I was like first starting my apprenticeship and got like super involved in the spirituality stuff. Like I would go, I would get so immersed that I wouldn't listen to even body cues of like having to go to the bathroom, or like needing food to nourish myself. Like I would like think, oh, that's just, it's just the body, it doesn't matter, kind of thing. So I went through stages of that when I started immersing myself in my own spiritual development. And then I realized, oh, that's actually an imbalance and not healthy at all. But yeah, we all learn through excess or extremes in some ways. So being like spiritually addicted, that can be an imbalance. Or on the opposite degree, totally cynical of spirituality, like just denial of everything, even though there's like science behind it. And we've seen people like that too. But is it like that, or is it just their language thing? So learning to get through that and actually see what it is. So yeah, examine your belief systems, connect with the I am mantra, the idea of just being as you are, connecting with the idea that you are divine, the interconnectedness of all. Shavasana is one of the best asanas for the crown. Headstand, depends on how you're approaching it. If you're approaching it with that, like, it's just a journey kind of thing, or if you're approaching it with that rigidity, then don't do it. Meditation, just having like a spiritual practice or discipline, all these things can help connect you to your crown. Learning, just being open to learning and studying, because that's part of what helps us expand into that interconnection, is studying the self, studying the universe, studying different things, seeing how, math and science and art and all these things really are their own language, but there's like this cross-disciplinary beautiful thing that they're all connected in some ways and teaching us very similar things about the self. So yes, Om or E all the way up here is like the vowel that can help you bring balance. They say like the color violet, some use white as the color of the crown. As far as like singing bowls, like notes, it's the B note. That is for the crown. And yeah, that's the crown. That's our crown. Pretty much. So yeah, any thoughts or questions from what we just experienced? Anything you want to share? Anything you've noticed as far as like in your journey with connecting with the self, of states of balance or imbalance with it? Cool. I'm just going to pause this.